Through their leaps in utility to mankind's various processes, mobile technology has gradually become more and more inseparable from everyday life. Think about how electricity has changed most of life's processes, or the telegraph changing communication, the phone, the television, the radio, all increased efficacy, efficiency, and ease for various life processes. Today, pocket-sized Swiss Army knives of technological utility, smartphones, enable instant communication, reachability nearly anywhere in the world 24/7, internet and information access, as well as promised personalization and privacy for users. Under closer inspection, though, their massive usefulness disguises countless vulnerabilities to surveillance tactics. The user agrees to the promise of utility and privacy, unaware of the fine print that leaves them exposed to global scrutiny. In my research, I came across 3 primary types of surveillance: peer-to-peer, institutional, and aggregated, all of which are directly related to the use of mobile technology, and all focus on their use in relation to social media. Peer-to-peer surveillance operates on a much more local level and refers to the ability to survey between users of the same sort of application. So your friends having the ability to keep tracks on your whereabouts through Snap Maps or other location things would be peer-to-peer surveillance. It's also called lateral surveillance because it operates on one horizontal plane. Institutional surveillance, on the other hand, is much more public and features institutions like churches, schools, or other organizations keeping track on potential candidates or current members. A great example of this would be from recent news, when an intern at NASA was getting fired for their tweets, or scholarships and acceptances to schools being rescinded based on racist incidents becoming public on social media. Clearly, institutions are interested in investigating members, and an awareness of this surveillance has implications on socially accepted behavior, media etiquette, and potentially morality on a large social scale. A last form of surveillance is aggregated surveillance, which involves large corporations keeping tabs on various markets and demographics in order to improve their profit margin through prediction and analysis of relevant data. This type of surveillance involves gathering users' purchase history and trends in order to better brand themselves for the current economic marketplace and increase their profit margins. In my opinion, the human process most impacted by technology is communication, which occurs largely in social media apps and different platforms that allow for socialization. But the risks for engaging in large networks like these are amplified by their scale and variety. We have wider reach and more outlets for socialization, but more opportunity to be susceptible to cyber surveillance. While social media does enable communication, it also encourages surveillance. Individually, you should monitor your content for insights into how your peers are responding through likes and follows, and you should also be watching those peers to see how you should be posting in response. Location features like Find My Friends and Snap Maps even encourage you to watch your friends' physical whereabouts, putting their virtual avatars on an accurate down-to-the-second and very precise map. Both these forms of surveillance can be found in wearable tech and fitness social media. Individual surveillance encourages you to watch your own results and statistics, while peer-to-peer encourages you to support others and see their results as they make progress. But this lets you see workout data, which contains stuff like heartbeat and weather at the time of the run, down to the route you took and the time you were running. At best, this is an invasion of privacy. At worst, it could lead to someone tracking you down and hurting you on a run. Moving on, institutional surveillance practices are eloquently described in this New York Times article, which talks about a football player who had his acceptance from university rescinded after a Snapchat video with him using racial slurs went viral. It also mentions that at least a dozen other schools did the same. This demonstrates an institutional surveillance beyond what one would normally expect. With social media, these institutions are able to see your personal information, your morals, your ideas, your values, and your beliefs through behavior on social media beyond what would have been possible 50 years ago. Before these technological advances, they could have only watched what was on your permanent record or a criminal record. Now, hidden in plain sight, they have to turn to social media, where individuals think they're posting on a much more personal sphere, but in fact, it's true what they say, that anything you put on the internet will be there forever and anyone can see it, even potential educators, employers, or other institutions. When we move on to aggregated surveillance, the readiest example to observe it today is in targeted ads across social media. But how does this process work? Well, let's say it starts with a market. Advertisers and companies observe the market trends so that they can appeal directly to the buyer and are able to change strategies and optimize their profits. For us as users, it starts with those pesky service agreements. To participate in social media, we agree to various terms and conditions. The perceived utility and necessity of one's inclusion on these platforms encourages conformity to those terms and conditions. They conceal agreements to collect data for the purposes of improving algorithms or better personalization, but in fact make you sensitive to cybersecurity risks. From there on, our devices are listening to us. No, not remotely turned on and monitoring us like with the FBI memes, but being aware of our response to content on these networks, absolutely. Your watch history on Netflix, your likes and saves on Instagram or Facebook, even the things recently searched in social shopping app environments. And with that information, advertisers are able to show you exactly the products you're most likely to buy in that instant through targeted ads. When looking at these targeted ads, looking at my own on Instagram is a great place to start. First, we get general ads like deodorant, where the most identifiable thing is the fact that I'm a male, so they advertise with Old Spice. The next ad, we can clearly see they've used general data indicating that I'm from Canada to show me Canadian blood services and get me to donate. And while this may be a harmless coincidence, it also is somewhat creepy considering I've had the Donate Blood page bookmarked since I was 17 and first got interested, even though as a gay man I can't donate blood, which is an issue in itself. My next ad shows me that the location services might be even more scarily accurate. They can show me I'm in Ontario, but then even get as precise as Belleville, which is right around Kingston. Then we get a bunch more general ads, so peanut butter, laundry, all potentially harmless things, but things that make me believe maybe they've got some purchase records of me as a university student. Speaking of university students, I got about 7 alcohol ads in my 10 minutes of scrolling, which suggests that they really think university students are the market for alcohol. Most alarming to me was the fact that gin and peach are my 2 favorite varieties of flavor and alcohol, and both featured in this ad. Possibly coincidence, but possibly more. Next is a Logitech webcam ad. Seems general, but I work at Staples and spend most of my day looking up various tech products for customers, so it seems to reveal some surveillance beyond what I was aware of before. On its own, there's nothing alarming about a Snoopygram advertisement, but it's the only Christmas special I've watched recently and is most recently played on my Apple TV playlist. And then there's the camera, maybe related back to Staples, but potentially related to the conversation over text I've had with my father relating to upcoming Christmas gifts, or that I've browsed cameras on Amazon lately. Alarming nonetheless. A secondary degree of potential surveillance can even be found when we remember back to week 6 of Film 214, when we learnt about physical infrastructures. We use our devices and we collect data, information, files. But through cloud storage or other collection processes, this data has to actually be kept somewhere physical on Earth. When we think about the ways that data breaches can occur, our information is then vulnerable even when it's not through us agreeing to make that data vulnerable to different collection sources. Looking at pandemic life today, we can see how developments in technology for adaptation are equally instrumental for developments for surveillance, with remote working implementing mobile restrictions, laptop use surveillance, recorded and or monitored Zoom teleconferences and other adaptations, and things like online learning introducing remote proctoring and webcam surveillance for exams. At the end of the day, the most important thing to remember is to be aware of what you post. Be conscientious of if you're posting in a personal sphere, if it's more on a private level between 2 individuals, or if it's public. Sometimes, with the internet operating on such a worldwide scale, you have to be aware of even global spheres and what they are seeing from you when you post online. There's no need to excuse oneself from social media permanently, but use this newfound knowledge so that you can exercise caution and awareness surrounding the surveillance going on while you engage in social networking.